Alrighty, so we're back again with the second video, and this is going to be talking about the player, the blaster, the bullet, anything really that's associated with the player. So, in my player H file, I made a bunch of forward declarations of classes that I was going to be using. It has the constructors. It has some functions, and these functions are associated with the strategy pattern for the movement, but I'll get into that in a minute. It has positions. It has activating an explosion when it dies. The collisions with various objects in the game, pointers, private variables right here, more pointers to private variables. So let's go into the CPP. I set the variables. I set the main sprite stuff, the movement, well, not really movement, but just the position where it's going to be spawning on the screen. And here, let's get into the more fun stuff. So this update, it's always updating the position of the player, because obviously the player is moving all the time. Draw the main sprite. In this collision, this just sets the player back like a space. So if it collides with the mushroom, it doesn't get stuck, but it'll just go back, and you can move around it and touch the mushroom, but you won't get stuck. So I'll skip these for now in a minute, but I'll get back to those. So an activate explosion, which it's creating a new player death. So my collisions, the spider, the flea, the centipede, and the body, they are basically when you collide with any of the enemies, you decrement alive. I have a pointer to the text demo, which updates lives, which you saw in the first video. Lives are being updated. When you lose a life, the mushroom field regens. I activated explosion. I set the position back to the original, and then if the lives are 0, I then write the high score. If it's bigger than in this function here, it'll be like if it's bigger than the original high score, it'll write back. And then the game controller, it'll go back to the attractor mode on death. So we have that. I have a set position, setting pointers. So the fun stuff, which you're probably looking for, is the strategy pattern. So the movement strategy. So I have it here set up like a regular class. It has, constructor, an update, a destructor. I have a check for key presses, and I have a pointer back to the player. So in the CPP, I set the player pointer, and then in its update, I have check for key presses, but I have this function that says check for key press, and inside it goes back to the player, and it's like, oh hey, if this button is pressed, so an A, get the player's left movement, and if this button here, D, is pressed, get the right movement, and so on. And then especially for the blaster, or not the blaster, but the bullet as well. So I have that, so that's decoupled from the player. The bullet, I have it as a factory, so that's obviously going to be recycling, but first let's look at the bullet. So we have collisions with different game objects and what they do. Go into the CPP. Pretty much, obviously we get what a bullet does. It just collides. If it collides with, one of the objects, it'll destroy, and then when it, in the other classes, like mushroom or the centipede, those parts will be destroyed from the bullet. So either way, they're going to be both killing themselves, I guess you would say. So there's that, and then I'll have you look at the bullet factory. So this bullet factory, it is set up like a singleton, so there's only one that exists. So I have everything a basic singleton has. I have the recycled items. It privately creates recycles and creates a bullet. I made a boolean, which obviously is for, shooting only one bullet while on screen. I had to have a function that's get is fired and set is fired, and then my public functions are create bullet and recycle bullet. So we'll go into the CPP, and we have a privately create bullet function. I set a boolean is fired to true because you are firing it, and so while this is true, the bullet is obviously existing and you cannot fire again at all, and that's obviously that's shown in the game. So if there is if the recycled items are empty, it'll put a new bullet in there, but if they're not, it'll just keep on popping off the stack to get the most recent bullet added in. So yeah, that's privately recycle bullet, recycling, delete the pointer when the game terminates, or the bullet factory terminates itself. I have the get is fired and set is fired. So yeah, I have that, and this does work. So if I shoot only one bullet on screen at one time, so that works. And obviously the movement is here, you do everything, and then if I died a bunch of times, it goes back to attractor mode, and it's quiet. So that's the nice thing. So yeah, there's that. So this was the blaster, basically the blaster and the bullet. So yeah, that's the end of this video.